During this month of Holy Souls, we are called to reflect and pray for the dead. In a homily just a few days ago, our Holy Father, Pope Francis, says the Church asks us to pause for a moment, take a moment to think about death. It can seem morbid, but in this week's Pro-Life Focus, we explore how the inescapable reality of death should impact our life for the better.
It took me a while to see past the tragedy, I think.
As a sixth-generation funeral director, Caleb Wild grew up surrounded by death.
We'd go over to my grandparents as children, and the viewing room would be right next to our dining room. So we'd have the holiday meal, and there'd be somebody right in the next space, and it was like we were jumping from something fun and family to something sacred.
After witnessing a series of tragic deaths up close, Wild developed a negative view of mortality for a time, but has now begun to see it differently.
I started to see how people were able to embrace life as they embrace their own mortality. And these small little things that I hadn't seen before slowly became louder and louder, to the place where I was in a dark place and transformed into something where now I feel as though I'm in a great spot in the funeral business.
Father Edward Hathaway, a priest and pastor of Virginia's oldest Catholic church and oldest Catholic cemetery, is highly attuned on the matters of life and death.
Francis called death her friend, but we view death as a passage to life. Death is something we should have a good relationship with without being morbid, and awareness that our true home is on the other side of death.
Hathaway says we need to always view death with the eternal perspective in mind.
Well, we should be frightened by death only in the sense that it helps us to be better, that we understand that we want to go to God with our best self. As much as our life with God begins here, that a definitive union and fulfillment and longing that we hope for of our soul with God will only happen after our death, when we're transformed and purified.
Some Catholics practice the long tradition of memento mori, or remember your death, by keeping a skull, an hourglass, or another symbol in a visible spot as a reminder of our temporary time here on earth.
Not something I'm inclined toward personally, because I do want to use every moment I have here well to serve God. But if that helps you to be more mindful of the fleeting nature of even the beauty of the human body, or the beauty of our life here, to see that paling in comparison to what we'll have in heaven, and also to keep us on the right pathway.
As Father Hathaway and I walk along Virginia's oldest Catholic cemetery, where at least 5 Revolutionary soldiers are buried, he reminds us to always remember those who have died in our prayers.
We never do anyone a favor by assuming they're in heaven already. Who's perfect when we die? The canonized saints we know for sure are in heaven. But our beloved dead, we want to keep praying. And if they don't need our prayers, if they already are in heaven, they're not in need of our sacrifices and prayers, then they'll be redistributed, I'm confident.
We must pray for those who have gone before us and pray for our own lives.
We'll die the way we've lived. So trying to live well. We don't know the day or the hour, so we always want to be prepared to meet God without being afraid.
So death no longer has its sting.